you don't dread like coming in. I don't dread writing articles. Like some people like Monday morning, like, oh man, I gotta go to my job, and I'm like, it's never like that for me. So I have it kind of an unending. Well, I wouldn't say an unending passion. So I had some jobs that have tested me a little bit, but those, yeah, you need those tough experiences to kind of reaffirm, like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Well, 100%, man. It's funny because it's the Monday of all Mondays, as they say with the new year.
Oh yeah.
And I know so many people, and it's tough because they're dreading going back to work today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Doug, this is my job right now.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing right now. I'll go back and edit some more podcasts and work on some social.
I also know you were probably doing stuff the last couple of weeks. Like, it doesn't. That's the thing when you're a freelancer, when you do your own stuff, it doesn't stop.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Liam Hanley. How are you doing today, Liam?
Good, Jeremy. Nice to be at your new place. This new office is awesome. You could spend hours looking at all this stuff.
Bro, I appreciate it, man. It's funny because we were here for like a half hour before we started.
Just walk, get the full tour. Yeah.
Got the full tour from the Bobblehead Hall of Fame to the jerseys to
yes, this is the Bobblehead Museum, right?
Yeah, right there. Yeah. I'm a proud card-carrying member. You're my first live in-person guest.
Wow, yeah.
It's exciting.
I kind of push the in-person. I like the back and forth better. It's hard over Zoom sometimes.
It really does, and man, we'll get into your podcast and what you do as well. But it is one of those things where I'm sure you've had guests where it's like pulling teeth, and you're like trying to get a little bit of info out of them, and then you have others that you could go for hours and hours, and it's never ending.
Yeah, it's hard when you just don't know someone. It's like it's like maybe a friend of a friend, like someone that we've never talked to them before, and you gotta like warm them up first. So you can't just get like right into the nitty gritty. And then some people, they're just not as talkative. So it is tough sometimes. Yeah,
we're on episode like 135, 136 at this point. And one of the things I started doing with people I don't know at all, because a lot of times those guests are people I know from a friend of a friend, or, found on Facebook or found online or something, is we schedule like a 5-minute call. And it's literally like a break the ice. Okay, and in my brain is like, how are you speaking? Do you need more time when I ask you a question? Or, that you kind of figure them out at least a little bit. And it makes it less awkward.
What things kind of get you excited? Like, because that's what you want. You want them to get excited and talking and have it be free flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into your podcast too. But one of the nice things about this is I've learned a lot of people like talking about themselves. So it makes my podcasting job a little easier.
Well, I don't as much. So maybe it's going to be a little harder episode.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I always like to capture the show and talk about the importance of networking. How do we know each other?
Yeah, we know each other through rugby. When did you move back to Milwaukee? Like
2022.
Me too, yeah. I feel like, it's probably 22 or 23 when we started coming out to the Milwaukee Barbarians. Shout out them pretty regularly. And there's one, I don't remember like our first meeting per se, but I just remember one time it was probably a fall game and we're sitting on the grass and just like chopping up, talking sports. Like, oh, he's a cool guy. Because I remember some people were like, oh yeah, the sports and history. I'm like, you don't say. Yeah, those are things that are very interesting to me as well. So
it's funny, man, you mentioned that because with rugby, we have 40 guys, sometimes 50 guys on our team.
Yeah,
but you don't see everyone all the time, and it kind of, I wouldn't say cliques form per se, but friendship groups form, and so especially when new guys join the club, it's like you don't get around to talking to everyone all the time.
Away. And it's kind of just like a dude thing too. You're like, someone's like, well, what does your friend do for work? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, as we like have the rugby team, I don't know what they do. They just show up. I play rugby with them. They're my friend. We drink some beers, and
I was Uber ride on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
and I kind of just made up what I did because sometimes it's hard to explain this work.
Yeah,
because you do a lot of freelancing and kind of individual work as well.
Yeah.
So I want to kick off the show and talk about your origin story. Comic book issue number 1. Who's Liam?
Yeah. Man, at my core, I love sports. I know it's something you can relate to. My dad likes to tell this story where I was 5 years old. It takes me to my first Brewers game at Miller Park. And, most 5-year-olds, they don't be wiggling around their seat. Like, can I get cotton candy? Can I go on the playground? He said, no, I sat there the full game, watching intently, asking questions, just into it. And I think that kind of describes me. I've always just been a huge sports guy. I love playing sports. I love watching sports. I love, talking about sports and writing sports. And I think, when you're passionate about something, it's easy to kind of do that for your job.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy, man, and obviously we'll get into it. It's not easy to do.
Not easy, but it comes easier. Like, you don't dread like coming in. I don't dread writing articles. Like some people like Monday morning, like, oh man, I gotta go to my job, and I'm like, it's never like that for me. So I have it kind of an unending. Well, I wouldn't say an unending passion. So I had some jobs that have tested me a little bit, but those, yeah, you need those tough experiences to kind of reaffirm, like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Oh, 100%, man. It's funny because it's the Monday of all Mondays, as they say with the new year.
Oh yeah.
And I know so many people, and it's tough because they're dreading going back to work today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Doug, this is my job right now.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing right now. I'll go back and edit some more podcasts and work on some social.
Well, also know you were probably doing stuff the last couple of weeks. Like, it doesn't. That's the thing, when you're a freelancer, when you do your own stuff, it doesn't stop. There's no 9 to 5. No, you're working on stuff I'm working on stuff at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I don't know. I guess you probably are too, or like whenever you want to. Like sometimes, like you're like, oh, I don't really feel like doing it, and you're like, I'll go work out and do it later. And that's kind of the beauty of setting your own schedule.
It really is, man. Like I went back to my folks' house this weekend to hang out, and I was watching The Longest Yard at like 2 a.m. because I just kind of got that flow going. I'm like, all right, let me edit some of these more difficult podcasts so I don't have to deal with it later today or later this week. And so it is nice in that sense of setting your own schedule.
Yeah, and then during the day you can do what you want and pursue different things. Yeah.
So you mentioned growing up loving the Brewers. We're both Wisconsin kids. What other teams did you like, or what else did you?
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can see my shirt. My dad is a Pittsburgh guy. I grew up there for probably his first 18 years, and his family's big Steelers fans. He talks about going to Three Rivers Stadium back in the day. He went to an AFC Championship one year. They beat the Oilers. So he was also a Pirates fan. That didn't carry over, but no, I've pictures of being like 3, 4, or 5 years old, like decked out in Steelers gear. Like, people are like, well, why are you a Steelers fan? I'm like, well, I didn't really have a choice. It just happened. Like, I was before I even had like the consciousness of like what the Steelers were and what they meant. Like, they were my team. Oh, yeah. And I do like the Packers as well, not on the same level. Really from the Super Bowl in 2010. Being in middle school, again, being the only Steelers fan in middle school.
Yeah.
It was a little tough. It was that I got incessantly bullied for 2-3 weeks. So maybe
I'm okay with that.
Maybe like the Packers less. I don't dislike them, but it's just not the same. Mm-hmm. I like the Bucks. I'm not a huge NBA guy, but Giannis is just such a lovable guy. And then just a lot of college basketball teams. Milwaukee Panthers, who I cover. They're such a fun team. I think they really embrace the city, and that they kind of take on the identity of Milwaukee, which I really like. Then some other college basketball teams, St. Mary's Gales out in California. That's another long, weird story. Just sometimes you don't choose your team chooses you, and you just kind of fall for them. And that's what happened with St. Mary's. So I was watching them for a bit during the Steelers instead of the Steelers game last night. It's like, I can't watch these Steelers.
Yeah,
I can't watch it.
Yeah. No,
so I don't. Yeah, a lot of different teams, and then soccer, rugby. I could go on and on.
So it's one thing to grow up playing them and watching them and liking them. When did that idea of maybe doing something as a career or as a job?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when I went to college, I was very much in kind of the undecided category. I went to McAllister College, and one of the reasons I went there is it's a liberal arts school, and I like that because you can you don't go in and declare your major day one if you don't want to. Like, I didn't have to declare it till second semester of sophomore year, and that gave me a lot of time to explore, kind of do my gen eds, explore different things. I was thinking, maybe math and maybe a couple other things, but I just kept coming back to my history classes. Those are the ones. And I know you're a history guy. Those are the ones I enjoyed the most. I was learning about Vikings and explorers and kind of all different things like that. And that really piqued my interest. And kind of from there, I just love the research behind it. I've always been kind of a research and a writing guy. And as history major, you're building narratives, you're telling stories. And I found with my passion of sports, there's a lot of stories I want to tell, and a lot of things I want to break down. And so in college, I did a decent number of papers kind of that were like sports involved. So my senior thesis was about soccer fan culture in England. So I wrote like 30 pages on that, and I really enjoyed that. I did another paper on kind of like urbanism and soccer stadiums in England in kind of like the late 1800s and early 1900s and how they kind of built those into neighborhoods. I did another one about like promotion and relegation. So it was always something that was kind of meaningful to me. And then just being able to combine that writing passion with sports, and then coming out of college, still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then COVID's was right before COVID. And if you're familiar with SB Nation, they have a blog site called Mid Major Madness, which covers all the mid-major college basketball teams.
Shout out the mid-majors.
Yeah, shout out. And there's one of their editors, I think former editors, he was like, it was some long thread. I can't remember what it was, but someone was like calling out like independent bloggers or whatever. He's like, if you ever want to write for us, just like shoot me a message. I'm like, hey, I'd love to write for you guys. I don't have any like professional writing experience, but like, here's some papers I wrote in school. This is what I have. That's what I have. So I wrote about St. Mary's and one of their big men getting hurt and how that affected them. And it got published. And I'm like, whoa, okay, this can. Obviously, I didn't get paid for it, but like, this could be something. And I think next year I wrote another article. And then, I'm getting ahead of myself because I got an intern a couple months later. COVID happened. A couple months after that, I got an internship writing for a website called The 18, which is a soccer website. They're based out of Boulder. So then that was kind of the start of things, and from there it's been very kind of a slow, maybe like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, very slow progress. So I was there for a couple years, kept on writing for Mid Major Madness. I'm trying to think. I was like, I don't want to leave any of the sites out. And then I wrote for Clutch Points.
Yep.
I don't like Clutch Points. Sorry, but I wrote there. But that was an interesting experience because they were very much kind of the opposite of the style I like to write in. It was very much SEO, like fire out articles. Like they wanted me to write like a 550 word article every hour with SEO and like images, and I'm like that was kind of a trying moment for me. I worked for them for about a year and a half, and that really sapped my creativity. Having to just write that everything was a template, like which free agents should this team sign, why this team won't beat this team. And there were some fun ones there. I like writing about like some fancy football stuff, but it really sapped my creativity, and I had to quit. I was like, it's maybe I'm making money and like progressing in my career, but like I'm not enjoying it. It's just not for me. I like long form. I like to kind of take time, get all my information, do my research, and that was tough. So from there, I was unemployed for a bit. Didn't really have a writing home. During that, I also started writing for the Shepherd Express. Tyler Klein, who my good friend, kind of helped me out with that. Where he at his former employer, and I started doing some random freelancing stuff. I wrote about Milwaukee Rampage, if you know them.
Oh,
yeah. The OG, maybe not the OG Milwaukee soccer team, that'd be the way, but the OG outdoor team. They were in the USISL in the 90s and the 2000s, and that was the league. Before the MLS, that was the league, and they almost talked about it was interesting because they almost built a stadium on the site where, if you know the Milwaukee Pro Soccer team, alleged Milwaukee Pro Soccer team,
it's
which
coming someday,
2035,
asking about it.
they were going to build a stadium down there, and they didn't, and then a year or two later they folded. So I kind of wrote about their history. I wrote about some other random things, and I got into Milwaukee Panthers basketball. That was also another very fortuitous kind of thing, because Bart Lundy took over in 2022. Great coach down there, and I'd kind of been I tweet a lot of college basketball. That's one of my things. That's what I've been doing for a couple years, doing my little like threads and analysis. And one day he follows me. I'm like, oh, interesting. And so at this point, Tyler and I had started the MKC Sports Express podcast, which is sponsored by Potawatomi Sportsbook. And
I'm not sponsoring us yet, so I'm.
Hey! I know, you're a competitor. I'm on the competitor's show. You should be lucky I'm here,
right?
And I reached out to him like, hey, coach, you want to be on the podcast? He's like, yeah, sure, that'd be awesome. I've never met the guy. Just randomly follows me on Twitter one day, and he's like, yeah, let me just have you do a call with like the director of basketball operations, and he kind of vetted me. So I was like, so who have you had? Like, he's kind of serious, like, who's been on your podcast? Like, what are your intentions? And I'm like, oh, we're all like good, we're Milwaukee podcast. Love to get to know some Milwaukee people on, and we did it. And every year now we've gone to the media day and done a podcast with him, and we go. Tyler and I cover the games at Panther Arena. We covered a game on the road at the Kohl Center in Madison for the first time, which is awesome. And yeah, so that's kind of like my beat, if I would say I had a beat. So
it's amazing, man, because it's one of those things where, for example, Lundy, it opens up so many other doors that you don't even realize they're doors yet. You just go for it, and then when the next athletic director asks you who you had on, we've had Lundy on, we've had this, we've been here, and it really starts to help build you as a freelance, as a writer, as kind of a professional.
Definitely.
I realized that with rugby, it started going to a few games and supporting there, and then ended up working with USA Club, and now going to national games.
Going to the Ireland, New Zealand. That was awesome.
It's incredible just to be able to cover it. I know I can't play rugby forever. I'm going to try. But finding another avenue when you can't play the sports you enjoy.
Yeah.
Just a way to, and you mentioned with clutch points, I think it's big to when you realize you don't like something, it's okay to leave it.
Definitely,
It doesn't need to be a burn the building down and, blaze of glory. But I think a lot of times I realized, man, when I was at the College Football Hall of Fame, I was done. I kind of accomplished what I wanted there. And of course, I looked on the outside to a lot of people insane. I have like national championship, confetti and banners and things I've gone to. Cool. But it's like, it's one of those things when I think you're ready to move on, and for one reason or the other, it's always nice to. One thing I love about freelancing and doing that now, it's you can kind of I tell people you can choose your own adventure.
Yeah, that was tough because that was the closest I've come to being like a full-time sports writer, because everything else I do is freelance. But yeah, it was one of those things. Yeah, like you said, knowing when to move on is so important, and I'm glad I did that. And kind of going back to what you're saying about the connections, now I get to go. I can just apply to a media credential and go to a game. Like I've been to the Cream City Classic, whatever they call them at Pfizer Forum, the Milwaukee Hoops Showdown, I think they call it this year, where they got Milwaukee playing, they got Wisconsin playing last year, and they had like Northwestern and San Francisco and teams like that. And I went to a Loyola Chicago game this year, and I got credentials to the Kohl Center in Madison. It's cool just having that name in that back and like, hey, I've written for this place, and I can go where I want and do what I want, and it's awesome. I just know there's the tough side though is the money side that's of freelancing, because it's not consistent. I got an email from my editor this week. He was like, yeah, I don't know how much, if we can do any Panthers coverage the next 2 months. I'm like, well, that really sucks.
Yeah.
So now my next challenge is kind of finding, where can I write about Milwaukee, because I can still go to the games and get paid for it. So that's going to be that's a little bit of a challenge. And I mean, it's just kind of the challenge of, I guess, the writing and the newspaper industry as a whole.
Yeah.
You see it's been a slow decline the last 20 years. Where, I mean, the Atlanta newspaper, they don't print they're not printing anymore. I don't know if you saw that. They're going all online, all digital, and sites are going away from like full-time writers, because they know they can have a bunch of freelancers that are hungry and are willing to take less money, and it's a tough industry. And I had something else, but yeah.
Oh, it's one of those things, man. And I tell people all the time, it's not all sunshine and
rainbows. No.
You see the highlights. I feel you there. It's you going to the game. It's you taking the picture on the field or in the stadium. But it's like at the same time, like, oh, how am I going to eat this week? And,
it's
especially when you first get going. I mean, I remember that I had started my business because I loved working in museums. I was in museums for a decade, and one of the things was I was working full time up in Minnesota when I was eligible for food stamps. And so I'm like, what can I do to figure out how to make some income? I remember I spent like 60 hours on, good old YouTube and Google.
Yeah.
How can I make money from home that's legit, not, not scamming credit cards or anything like that.
Illegal things.
And like, I kind of came to the social media, and I have to laugh now because I look back at some of those graphics. I'm like, anyone ever paid me?
Who's hiring? Yeah.
Like,
but you get a foot in the door, and then one thing leads to another thing, and sometimes it's really slow. But yeah, I feel like I feel myself progressing. It's just it's hard when you're you can't always see the trees when you're in the forest. And you can't always have that overhead view like, oh yeah, I am making progress on my little hike. But yeah, going back to the kind of the freelance stuff, it's sad to see like the newspaper decline and just the decline of like quality content. So much stuff. It's clickbait, it's SEO, it's
It's very clearly AI when they forget to pull out the dash.
Yeah, or wait, I've been using the M dash. That's what I hate. I hate stop hating on the M dash. I've been using that. But yeah, or just stuff where it's like just like two guys shouting into a microphone. It's like we're like, oh, here's four dudes sitting on a couch just like giving bad sports takes. Like there's no substance to it, and it's a shame because there still is a lot of good sports content out there and people consume it. And I think this day and age we're kind of it's a like with clutch points, it's a quantity over a quality thing. You just throw out what you can and see what sticks. And so it's a lot, I guess, easier than actually having to kind of really put some effort into something and think critically and write something good. But I think there's still a market for that, and especially with like you said, the rise of AI and just with I think the decline of people's writing skills. I mean, you see it. I already hear it with kids and all that. Like they can't write like paragraphs, and you're like they can't read at their school level. And just I mean that's a whole different thing. But like I think writing skills, it's kind of like an investment. Like they're not going away. Maybe they're a little bit in decline now, but I firmly believe maybe not this year or next year, but the next 5 to 10 years, people are gonna like look and be like, if you can write well, it's gonna be a huge asset.
Yeah. It's one of those crazy things because it might be literally prompt engineering AI to do what you want.
Yeah.
But if you can't speak like a person, it gets more difficult to explain what you're doing. And it's so funny because at the time, much like you, I went to school at Eau Claire. Shout out Eau Claire. Was undeclared for a long time, like 2.5 years. Finally, my professor was like, "Hey, you need to do something. You should do something."
You need to have a major, like if you're going to graduate.
That's pretty much what it came down to. And she was like, Dr. Rice, she was like, "You took like every history class we had.
Yeah.
You should probably do something with history."
Mm-hmm.
What do you go do with history? You teach.
Yeah.
So I went into school of ed, ended up doing that for a little while, and of course, not a teacher, but it was one of those things where I think just like your writing skills, it builds on those. Soft people skills helped me so much in the museum field.
Yeah.
Talking to literally anyone, whether, at the time it might have been other historians or tourists or giving guided tours at museums. But then it became talking to athletes, talking to coaches, and just I think in general, just talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned those soft skills. It's hard applying for jobs. It's like, how do you can't measure that? It's not like you have like a computer science job and like you either know how to code or you don't. Like you can't like fake it. It's like how do you measure good writing? That's something I have a like hard time kind of getting across to people. And it's like applying a job. There's like just like I almost want to say just read it. Read my stuff. Like if you don't like, you don't like it. If you do, then hire me. Like it's not that simple because obviously you have, like you said, AI going through. They got to find the buzzwords in your resume and filter all that stuff out. And yeah, I think AI is a tool to use sometimes. It's good for maybe brainstorming or if you kind of come to a dead end. But like it can't replace human writing. It can only, and the thing I like to say about AI is it's not going to make anything new. It's just going to take different things and put them all together. It doesn't make new ideas, or only humans can do that. They can't make all the connections and expand on things like AI can. And I think that's kind of the beauty of human work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. On everyone's journey, you make a decision not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time where you made a decision, just went for it?
Yeah, I would say playing rugby, joining the rugby team at McAllister's. Coming out of high school, I played soccer. That was my sport, from the time I was 4 and through 18. And I remember emailing the coach McAllister after I got accepted and committed. I'm like, hey, what's could I walk on the team? What would that look like? That was like June. I think it was like July or August, or I think probably July. I email again, no response. And so I'm like, well, I don't know, like, what am I going to do? I really, like, I'm a very competitive person. I love being active. Like, I guess I do intramural sports, but no, I'd like to do something a little more than that. And I remember, I think it was like in September, probably the second week of school, and I get an email, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the walk-on tryouts are today," and I'm like, "How how am I supposed to join? Like, I have work. I gotta work. I gotta pay my tuition, and I didn't do it but by that point, I'd already joined rugby, and that was a kind of gratuitous thing. I went to the org fair with all the organizations and stuff in the clubs, and I don't know, there weren't a lot of sports. And I'm like, oh boy, and the guy from the rugby team walks past and kind of like puts the ball on my chest. He's like, "You look like you could play rugby," and I'm like, like, I'd seen a little bit of rugby. I'd seen once or twice on TV, so I was like,
and those random highlights
familiar with it. Yeah, like I'd see like
biggest rugby hits
ever. Well, I rember NBC used to have the Sevens championship like way back in like the 2010s. That's about the extent of my rugby knowledge. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll join. I remember it was like kind of like the first week of school, and we had like one-on-one meetings with our RA, and I kind of brought it up to her. She's like, yeah, you should just go for it. So I had to go to Play It Against Sports, get like a $1 mouth guard. And I go to practice, and there's all these new guys. There's like maybe 5 returners and like 12 new guys, and we're learning. And then on Thursday, like, oh, yeah, we have a game this weekend. I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I go and I play 80 minutes, and we win, and play the next week. And I was still at that point, I didn't like it because, I mean, for people who aren't familiar with rugby, I was a forward, I was a flanker, so a lot of like tackling, like nitty gritty stuff. And I'm like, I want to get the ball and run. And I remember that second game, it was like a kickoff to me, and I evaded through like a couple guys, and like almost took to the house before getting taken down. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I got moved out to the wing, and I remember we made the playoffs. Like, apparently we'd been really bad. Like, we made the playoffs. We won in our playoff game. I scored my first try. Kicking, of course, the guy at fullback kicks it over the line. Their fullback comes up. I pretend like I'm gonna pick it up, and I kick it past him. And like that was like that's what I was like. Oh, I see the mental side of the sport. It's not just guys run up and hitting each other. There's so much of a mental side, and that's kind of like when I fell for rugby. And I remember one of the seniors on the team was like, "This is the first time I've ever won a game." I'm like, what? We're pretty good. Like, it was, and then just looking back was interesting because that team had probably like half a dozen returners, and then for whatever reason, like 12 freshmen joined my freshman class, and we kind of propped up the team. And it's like, without that team would have gone under and be no more. And now I look at the team, and they're going like, we would even during my time it'd be like, well, let's get 15 and maybe a sub or two like every game. We had a forfeit once or twice for like a road game. They went to Fargo, North Dakota, which is probably, I don't even know, from Twin Cities to Fargo. Long drive. Yeah. 4 hours. They went with like a full 23, 25 squad, which is just awesome to see that. But yeah, with the rugby, I ended up playing all 4 years. And just, I joined the Barbarians, I think, summer my sophomore year. And yeah, it's been so fulfilling for me, both physically and then just the learning side of the game, learning rugby. I mean, if for someone who hasn't watched it, it's so complicated and there's so many rules, but there's such an upside to knowing all those rules, and then you can find little kind of ways to get an advantage. And then senior year, I was all conference. I didn't even know they had all conference in our we were D4, like we were lowest of the low. Like during my time, maybe half a dozen people had played rugby before, and half of them were like South African students. Yeah. So, and then doing that, sticking with it, because it's something that grew on me. I didn't love it immediately, and then sticking with it, joined the Barbos, and it's just been so fulfilling, and it's really helped me with my kind of confidence, with the kind of whole mental. Been great for my mentality. Kind of opened up as a person. So I just love that, and all the great people and opportunities it's provided me.
Oh man, yeah, it's great. I love rugby. Obviously, this. The podcast knows this, but it's really cool to kind of help you as you develop. I mean, this will be my 16th year playing. Wow. And yes, I've slowed down a little bit, but like mentally, I know I know I'm supposed to be. I'm just gonna. I'm just gonna take the shortcut to get there.
Yeah. I think for me, it's kind of 10 or 11 years, and it's interesting though. Like one day you wake up and you're like a leader on the team. Like you went for so long, you're the young guy. There's all the guys who are 30, 31, 32. And now I'm 28. And I'm like, I got to be that guy. I got to be
looking to you for answers.
Yeah, it's like, we got young guys on the team that we're trying to mentor and make better people and better rugby players. And it's awesome when when they respond to you like that. Like Cormac is one guy. I'm trying to take over my one. He's like, man, I love you guys. Like I'm at Chicago. I'm never making any other friends. And I'm like, that's just like, there's a special bond with rugby in general. It's not like other sports where like, oh, I played soccer, and you're like, oh, cool, what position? Yeah. And then it's kind of done. Like, so you play. It's like, oh, you play rugby. Like where do you play? And like you somehow you find someone else that you knew, or like, oh, I played there before. Or like it's such a brotherhood. It's like, oh yeah, I played for like 1 year. Like, oh yeah, I come. Like you're in, and I think it's kind of a thing. You're going to battle for each other, which is awesome.
I mean, it helped me, as you know, I moved kind of all over the country, and the biggest thing I looked up when I was literally applying for jobs in the museum field is where's the nearest rugby team.
Yeah, do they have a rugby team?
Do they have a rugby team? Otherwise, I literally took it out of my pool of applying for jobs, because if I'm moving across the country, I'm not going to not play rugby. And
oh, definitely, yeah.
Like I knew, Graham's our coach from back in the day, so that's why I chose the Barbels.
Yeah,
it was an easy decision when I moved back.
Nice.
I think I moved back. I played with my Atlanta club that weekend before I moved, delayed my start date, and then moved down. And I think we played Pigs Fest that weekend right away. So it was like, hey, let's just keep the momentum going. It's great for something to do.
Yeah.
Obviously get out and meet the guys, but it's just rugby's a great sport, and I'll talk about it forever.
Yeah, and there's different levels. So you can be super competitive. Like I'm I'm just a super competitive person. I'm always pushing myself. And then there's the social side where you're like drinking beers after the game. You're drinking beers with the other team, and it's you're cursing each other in the field, hitting as hard as you can. But then after the game, everyone's friends.
So time of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on now, man?
Yeah, working on a lot. Nothing huge, but I'm working on oldest players in college basketball. So I did my D1 piece, oldest players in D1, that got published beginning of the year. Now I'm diving into the rest of college basketball. So right now I've gotten through D2, D3, NAIA D1. So there's NAIA D2, and then there's like some like Christian college association. So I got to go through those and write that up. So that's my next big thing. Trying to get some more stuff published on this website called Basket Under Review. If you're familiar with that, have you heard of Trilly Donovan?
Yes.
He's kind of a, how do I say him, anonymous like college basketball insider. He's like a ghost, but he knows everything. Like he knows who's getting hired, who's getting fired, and who's transferring where. And he started this. It's a really cool site for like kind of all the independent college basketball writers, because there's not really a good what's the site you go to for college basketball? Like there's not really.
It's not like there is college football.
No.
Every team has 6 versions of.
No, it's weird. Yeah. So it's kind of aggregating that and bringing it all together, and they have like obviously like paid memberships, but a lot of good free content. And so I'm working on getting some more stuff published for them, and then figuring out where I can get my Milwaukee Panthers stuff covered. So I'm gonna keep covering them. I'm not gonna stop them, but that's the challenges of being a freelance writer. And then I just kind of bigger pictures is finding that more, I guess, sustainable, high-paying role, whether it be, regular freelance, whether it be part-time, full-time sports writing. Because I mean, that's the dream. But I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of balancing that. I'm working at a bike shop, with Tyler. So there's kind of that the decision I've been weighing for a while. Like, is sports writing something I can do full time?
Yeah.
Or do I just work a 9 to 5 where it's maybe not easy, but not super stressful, where I can live off that and then do the sports writing stuff in kind of my free time, in the evenings, the weekends, freelancing. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to balance right now. Definitely some tough decisions.
Absolutely, man. It was like in the museums. Like I mentioned, I was in the museums for a decade, but those early years were 6-month contracts, 17-month contracts, and so the worst thing is especially in the nonprofit space, you're done after the 17 months.
There's not a lot of money.
There's no money coming back. They're hoping they don't lose it. Usually they would be able to sustain not losing it, but after that 17, it's like you're on to your next thing. I was fortunate to get the College Football Hall of Fame pretty early, relatively speaking to a lot of people, but I think it's so tough to give up a dream because you actually like what you're doing. It's not going for one job that you like a little bit more. It's like, no, this is what I really enjoy.
Yes, definitely. Just the opportunities aren't there. Like, I applied a lot of like writing jobs that aren't related to sports writing, copywriting, content writing, stuff like that. It's very rare where I come across like a good sports writing job, and it's because it's all, like I said, it's all freelance, and it's tough when when it's like they're paying you $50 an article. Like, can I survive off that? No, I gotta work another job to pay the bills and get by. So.
Tell me a little bit more about, as we close out.
So the MKE Sports Express. Another kind of, I don't know. What there's you need some luck. You need some fortune. You need it helps knowing people. So Tyler Klein, who we both know, worked at the Shepherd. Is kind of an account exec, and Potawatomi, the sports book and casino, approached them. They're like, "Hey, we want to do a sports podcast." And you see their name everywhere. It's like the Potawatomi, whatever. Like, this radio, TV, like they're always sponsoring things. They're like, "Yeah, we'll give you some money every month if you do a sports podcast." And they're not a very sports heavy organization. I wouldn't say granola heads, but they kind of they're more in kind of the arts and culture side of things, which I appreciate. They do some sports things, and I've been trying to get them more into sports. But yeah, they were like, "Well, we want to sponsor a sports podcast and get into that realm." And they're like, "Yeah, well, let's see what we can do." So first person they turned to was Tyler. Since he worked there and was a sports fan. And he reached out to me because at that time I was already freelancing for them. And I was like, podcast? Like, oh boy. Like, when am I just going to be another...
There's a reputation for podcasts.
Yeah, there is. That's exactly...
Especially sports podcasts.
That's all I could think about was just the talking heads, like the Dave Portnoy and Stephen A. Smiths, and like just the louder you are, the more correct you must be. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like what's going to set us apart from every other podcast out there? Why are people going to listen to us when they could listen to that or just not listen? What's going to draw them in? And so we'll make it kind of Milwaukee, Wisconsin focused. I'm like, okay, I'm still pushing. I still want to be a little more focused on that, but it's tough. I want to get more guests and all that. But so I do it for the first few months, and it was okay. I eventually, it's kind of like rugby. I wouldn't say I love it, but I grew to enjoy it. I do a lot of the research side of the thing. So it's like writing. It's like you do all your research before you write an article. So it's like that. And I'm just writing down my ideas and know what we should talk about. Like this week we'll talk about the NFL playoffs, talk about River Falls winning. Like that's a great story. Falls. Yeah. So maybe that can be an angle where we could maybe talk to someone on the River Falls team. That's I better write that one down. Yeah. Yeah, and eventually after a couple months, I was like, "Hey, can I start getting paid for this? It's a great opportunity, but I need to make some money." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, and we'll give you your normal freelance rate." And that was almost 3 years ago now. It was like early 2023 we started, and weekly podcast. Find us on Spotify. Find us, wherever you listen to your podcast. The MKE Sports Express. Yeah, we try to get cool guests on. We got Bart Lundy on, Jermichael Stillwell, former Milwaukee basketball player. We've had Jay Demerit, who played for the U.S. men's national team. He's a Green Bay native. That was really fun. He was a really cool guy. And some other people. We had the owner of the Green Bay Blizzard, the indoor football team. Went to a game there. Tyler had when he worked at the MS Society. He got some cool people on that were doing, like one guy climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. And he's just had with MS, which is awesome. Yeah. He's working his tail off just to kind of keep his normal motor function. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we try to get different guests on. I'd love to get more guests on because there's, like I said, there's so many cool stories to tell. There's no shortage of people, and it's like, what do you got to lose? You reach out to somebody. What's the worst thing? They're gonna ignore you. They're gonna say. They don't really say no. They just won't get back to you. Yeah. I feel like you've probably experienced that.
100%.
And we could be like, yeah, we got to know Wisconsin connection, or maybe them through this, and yeah, it's a great way to just tell different stories, and it's kind of what I'm all about as a writer and everything. Yeah.
Well, man, I want to say thank you again for being a guest, man. I really appreciate it. It was a great time. My first in studio guest. Yeah. It was really cool, man.
Hope we look good on camera.
We'll make it. I know the answer.
Yeah. Awesome.
Appreciate you.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen.
And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.